Ever find yourself gazing out the window of a speeding train, captivated by the sheer power and that sense of, I don't know, possibility?
It's definitely a captivating thought, isn't it? That feeling of controlling such a massive machine, connecting people and places. It's got a certain allure.
It does. And it seems like you're not just content with admiring the view. You're thinking about taking the controls yourself, becoming a train driver. You've sent us some really interesting role catcher resources on this very topic.
That's smart. It's not just a whimsical career choice. There's a lot to it. And RoleCatcher, they do a great job of breaking down the realities of it all.
So let's get down to the nuts and bolts of it. When you strip away the romance of the rails, what does a train driver actually do all day?
Well, first off, it's much more demanding than just driving, as most people imagine it.
I bet there's got to be more to it than pulling levers and tooting the horn.
Right, it's a constant balancing act, really. You're coordinating with teams across the entire network, monitoring safety systems, ensuring the smooth operation of a machine that's both incredibly powerful and surprisingly intricate. You're responsible for hundreds of lives, potentially tons of cargo, and you're operating under some seriously strict regulations.
Okay, so we're talking high stakes here, not just a leisurely ride through the countryside.
Definitely not. But that doesn't mean it's not without its rewards, of course. RoleCatcher highlighted something interesting. You know there's actually a ton of variety within the field.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Well, you could be at the helm of a high-speed bullet train, whisking people across countries at incredible speeds, or carefully guiding a freight train loaded with, maybe hazardous materials, even ensuring the daily commute of hundreds of passengers. Each train, each route, it brings its own unique challenges and rewards.
Okay, I'm hooked. You've piqued my curiosity. But let's talk about the elephant in the cab,
Yeah.
the work environment. RoleCatcher didn't shy away from the tougher aspects of this job.
Right, they didn't sugarcoat it. It's not always a picturesque journey through scenic landscapes.
I imagine there are some long nights and early mornings involved.
Oh yeah, you're working all hours, nights, weekends, holidays, often away from home for long stretches of time. And it's physically demanding, out in the elements, often in confined spaces, noise, dust, you name it. It takes a certain kind of person to thrive in that environment.
Someone who doesn't mind a little, or maybe a lot, of grime under their fingernails.
Exactly. It's not for everyone, that's for sure. But as you mentioned, there's a certain romance to the rails too.
That brings us to the upsides. And RoleCatcher was sure to highlight those as well, right? Good pay, job security, benefits. It sounded almost too good to be true.
Well, it can be a very rewarding career, both personally and financially. You're often backed by strong unions that fight for better wages, safer working conditions, and excellent benefits.
So it's not just about looking out for yourself. You're joining a whole community that's looking out for each other.
It's a career with a strong sense of camaraderie, that's for sure. And beyond the practicalities, there's a certain satisfaction that comes with this job that's hard to find elsewhere.
What is it? That feeling of being in control of such a powerful machine, that sense of purpose in connecting the dots of transportation.
It's a unique feeling, that's for sure. And for many, that's worth more than just a paycheck.
It sounds like you need a very particular personality type to thrive in this role, though. Not just anyone can handle those pressures, the long hours, the isolation.
You've got to have a certain blend of technical skill, focus, and a calm under pressure kind of personality. But more than anything, you have to genuinely love the rhythm of the rails, even when it disrupts your own.
RoleCatcher was adamant about weighing those pros and cons carefully before diving into this career path. They even provided a detailed roadmap of career progression, which I think is incredibly helpful. So tell us, where does this journey begin? What's the first stop on our career path to becoming a train driver?
You're right on track there. RoleCatcher dives deep into the career ladder, and it's a great resource for anyone serious about this path. They start with those entry-level positions, trainee, junior driver, that kind of thing.
Makes sense, right? You're not just going to jump into the driver's seat on day one.
Exactly. There's a learning curve, and those entry-level positions, they're like apprenticeships. You're shadowing experienced drivers, mastering those safety protocols, getting a feel for different types of trains and routes, really building up that essential foundation.
So it's a lot of hands-on learning, gradually taking on more responsibility as you gain competence. And I imagine that, with experience, you eventually progress to a role with more independence, like a senior train driver.
Precisely. You're proving you've got a handle on those regulations, those safety procedures we talked about. Now you're conducting the symphony solo, making real-time decisions, ensuring each journey goes off without a hitch.
It's like leveling up in a video game, but with much higher stakes.
That's one way to put it. But for those with their sights set even higher, who really want to shape the future of the railway, well, RoleCatcher highlights those leadership roles too. You've got your chief train driver, for instance, where you're overseeing a whole team of drivers, managing schedules, ensuring everyone's meeting those safety standards.
Wow, so you're not just responsible for one train anymore, you're basically conducting the entire orchestra.
Now you're getting it. And for those with a real strategic vision, you've got those executive level positions, train operations manager, even director of railway operations. We're talking high level planning, resource allocation, budgeting, the whole shebang.
It's amazing, really, the career trajectory you could have in this field, from those early days as a trainee all the way up to leading the whole operation. But let's rewind for a moment, back to those just starting out. What are those must-have skills someone needs to snag one of those coveted entry-level positions?
Well, it goes without saying, you need a knack for operating complex machinery. Comfort with technology is a must. Being quick on your feet, able to make those split-second decisions under pressure.
Right, because when you're dealing with a vehicle that massive, those decisions can have major consequences.
Exactly. But there are some less obvious skills that are just as crucial, and RoleCatcher really honed in on those. I was actually surprised by how much emphasis they put on, of all things, reading comprehension.
Oh, really? That's not something you typically associate with train driving.
You might not think so, but when you consider it, it makes perfect sense. Think about it. Train drivers, they're constantly referring to technical manuals, safety protocols, those ever-important regulations. You need to be able to absorb that complex information and quickly to make sure you're applying it correctly.
Right, there's no room for misinterpreting a safety procedure when you're responsible for so many lives.
Exactly. So it's not just about physical coordination. You need that mental agility too. That attention to detail, that ability to stay calm under pressure. Those are essential qualities for handling whatever curveballs the rails might throw your way.
Curveballs. I like that. And speaking of curveballs,
Mhm.
RoleCatcher had a whole section on those applicant tracking systems, or ATS for short. They made it clear those things can be a real make-or-break factor in your job search.
It's the reality of today's job market. So many companies are using those systems to filter through that mountain of applications they receive.
It's like a digital gatekeeper, and if you don't know the secret password, your resume might never see the light of day.
And that's where RoleCatcher comes in. They've found ways to demystify those systems. They analyze job descriptions, identify those specific keywords and phrases that make those algorithms tick.
So it's like they've cracked the code.
In a way, they have. They've leveled the playing field, giving you the insights you need to tailor your resume, make it stand out to both the human eye and those digital gatekeepers. They even have this really cool AI-powered feature called Copilot AI. It actually analyzes your resume and suggests improvements based on the specific job you're applying for.
That's amazing. So instead of just sending out a generic resume and hoping for the best, you're strategically optimizing it for each opportunity. It's, like you said, speaking their language.
Exactly. But it's not just about keywords. This Copilot AI, it actually analyzes your writing style, identifies areas for improvement, and helps you craft a compelling narrative that showcases your skills and experience.
So it's like having a personal resume editor in your back pocket, but one that understands the nuances of both human recruiters and those digital gatekeepers.
Exactly. But even with the most stellar resume, let's be real, landing that dream job often comes down to nailing the interview. And that's a whole other ballgame.
And I have a feeling RoleCatcher has some valuable insights on that front as well.
Oh, absolutely. They've got a treasure trove of tools to help you prepare. They've compiled this massive database. I'm talking over 120,000 interview questions, and they're all tailored to specific industries and roles.
120,000. That's incredible. So you're not wasting time prepping for questions that are never going to come up.
Not at all. You can filter the questions by industry, job title, even experience level.
Yeah.
It's all about making your preparation as targeted and effective as possible.
Okay, color me impressed.
Yeah.
So you can really zero in on the questions that are most relevant to your situation, but it gets even better, right? RoleCatcher offers AI-powered feedback on your answers, too.
You're on a roll. It's like having a personal interview coach in your pocket, giving you that extra edge.
Okay, spill the beans. How does this AI feedback work?
It's seriously sophisticated. You can either type out your answers or, and this is where it gets really cool, you can actually record yourself answering the questions.
Wait, hold on. It analyzes your verbal responses, too?
You heard that right. It listens to your tone, your pacing, even your word choice, and gives you feedback on how you're coming across. It's like having a personal brand consultant,
Hmm.
helping you refine your interview persona.
It sounds like they've thought of everything.
They really have. But here's the thing. RoleCatcher understands that interviews, they're not just about reciting facts and figures. It's about making a connection, showing your passion, that genuine interest in the role.
Right. They want to see the person behind the resume, the passion in your eyes when you talk about trains.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher provides guidance on how to do just that. They offer tips on body language, building rapport with the interviewer, even how to tell compelling stories that really highlight your skills and experience.
So it's about showcasing the whole package. Your technical skills, your soft skills, your unique personality.
You got it. But at the end of the day, even with all the tools and insights in the world, acing that interview comes down to you, your preparation, your passion, and your ability to articulate why you're the perfect fit for the job.
It's about owning your narrative and letting your enthusiasm shine through. So we've covered the skills, the application process, the interview. But before we pull into the station on this deep dive, there's one more crucial aspect RoleCatcher highlights, and that's choosing the right employer.
Yes, that's a step that many overlook, but it can make or break your job satisfaction and ultimately your career trajectory.
So what should someone be considering when they're researching potential employers in the railway industry? Okay, so we're back, and I have to say, this journey into the world of train driving just keeps getting more intriguing. We've talked about the technical skills, the application process, the all-important interview. But it strikes me that there's one aspect we haven't really explored yet, the human element.
You're right, we've focused a lot on the practicalities, the nuts and bolts of the job, but there's a whole other layer to consider, the emotional landscape of this career.
Exactly, and that's something that RoleCatcher touched on, and it really resonated with me. What are some of the emotional challenges that someone entering this field might not anticipate?
Well, it might seem counterintuitive because on the surface, it looks like a pretty solitary job, right? You're alone in the cab, focused on the tracks ahead. But the reality is you carry a tremendous weight of responsibility. You're responsible for the safety of your passengers or maybe for transporting potentially hazardous materials, and that can take a real toll, even on the most level-headed individual.
That makes sense. It's one thing to handle the technical pressure of operating a train, but the emotional burden of those responsibilities, that's a whole other story.
Precisely. And it's not always easy to just switch off at the end of a shift. You might experience things on the job that stay with you, things that you carry home, and over time, that can lead to stress, anxiety, even burnout if you're not careful.
So self-care, having a good support system, those are essential in this line of work.
Absolutely. And that support system, it goes beyond just family and friends, although they're obviously important. Connecting with colleagues, people who truly understand the unique demands of the job, that's crucial.
And that makes me think back to our conversation about unions. Do they play a role in providing that kind of support?
Yeah, they absolutely do. Unions, they're about so much more than just wages and benefits, although those are obviously important too. It's about that sense of community, having a network of peers who get it, who've been there, who understand what you're going through.
It's like having a shared language, a shared experience.
Exactly. Many unions offer counseling services specifically for railway workers, stress management workshops, social events, all geared towards fostering those connections and providing support.
It's about creating a space where people can debrief, de-stress, and just be themselves without judgment.
Exactly. And that's so important in a profession that can often feel quite isolating.
It really is. Now, beyond the emotional challenges, RoleCatcher also highlighted something that I found really interesting, and it's this idea that even once you've landed the job, the learning never really stops.
You're talking about the need for constant adaptation.
Yes. Tell me more about that.
Mm-hmm.
Why is adaptability so crucial in this field?
Well, the railway industry, it's constantly evolving. New technologies are emerging, safety regulations are updated, operating procedures change. It's not a static profession by any means.
So even the most seasoned drivers, they can't just rest on their laurels. They have to stay sharp, keep learning, keep adapting.
You've got it. This career demands a growth mindset, a willingness to embrace change, and continuously update your skill set.
That could be seen as a challenge or as an incredible opportunity, depending on your personality.
Exactly. Some might find it daunting, but if you're someone who enjoys learning, who thrives on those challenges, who wants to keep pushing their own boundaries, then this constant evolution, it becomes invigorating, stimulating.
It's about seeing the dynamism of the field as a feature, not a bug, as they say.
Perfectly put. And that brings us to a crucial point I want to emphasize as we wrap up this deep dive. This is really just the beginning of the journey, not the end.
We've given our listeners the map, but now it's up to them to get out there and explore the territory.
Yeah, precisely. Take this information, delve deeper into the areas that spark your curiosity, connect with those who are already on this career path, talk to train drivers, shadow them if you can, get a real-world sense of what it's like to be at the helm of those powerful machines.
Nothing beats firsthand experience, right?
Yeah,
It's the best way to know if a career path is truly the right fit.
absolutely. And remember, there's no single right answer, no one-size-fits-all approach. It's about finding the career that aligns with your unique values, your skills, your aspirations.
So to our listener who's considering this exciting, challenging path, we've given you a glimpse inside the world of train driving. Now it's your turn to grab the controls and chart your own course. We hope this deep dive has equipped you to make an informed, empowered decision, whatever that may be. Until next time, safe travels, everyone.